Sad fact, after 4 years of Biden and Harris, more Americans believe the American dream is no longer achievable. Donald Trump says he'll restore that, but how? You've mentioned getting rid of taxes on tips, 10% tariffs across the board, getting rid of most favored nation status for China. There will be a lot of pressure brought to bear against the tariffs question. How strongly, and I think a lot of people in Michigan are listening tonight, and in Ohio and other Rust Belt states, how firmly will you commit to these tariffs?
100%. Look, tariffs do two things. Number one, they bring in tremendous amounts of money, and they let you keep your jobs here. China used them for years, very successfully. They said if an American company wants to come and build a plant in China, there's no tariff. Same thing with me. If somebody wants to come build a plant and hire our auto workers, I like it, there's no tariff to be paid. But China charges us hundreds. I mean, they charge us so much. Other countries are charging us tremendous tariffs. It's a way. Look at India. They said to Harley Davidson, you have a 200% tariff on a motorcycle. But if you build your plant in India, there's no tariff. So they go and they build a plant in India, and so many other things like that. Tariffs are good. They also are good for something else, power. When a country starts getting fresh, when they start saying we're going to attack another country and you don't want them to, and you say, I'm sorry, if you do that, we're going to put tariffs on you, and, we're going to put tariffs. Do you know how many wars I stopped? Do you know that I had no wars? We had no wars. Remember when Hillary Clinton said, look at him, just look at him? Well, they looked at me, and the fact is that we had no wars other than I defeated ISIS, which had already started 100%.
We're going to get to foreign policy in a minute, but I just want to stay on this. The number one issue is the economy. Gas-powered cars. What happens to them in a Harris administration? In
a Harris, they're gone. In a Trump, they're thriving. And also, everything's thriving. Electric, gas-powered. Electric is 7%, 6% of the market. Maybe it's going to go a little bit higher. They want everybody to have an electric car.
Union jobs in Detroit.
Union jobs are going to come back. The unions are going to be, you know what's threatening to the union? Millions of people coming in and willing to work for a very small amount of money. The unions are under threat. I'll tell you who's hurt the most by the border. Black people, Hispanic people, and unions.
And young people going into the workforce for the first time.
Young people, too. But if you think about it, black people are losing jobs. They were doing so much better under Trump. People are coming in and undercutting them and taking their jobs. Hispanic people and also unions and young people.
The real wages under your administration, even the Washington Post had to report this, that I believe the number is you had a 19% differential between wages and inflation.
Right.
And with Biden, it's just, it's basically barely keeping up. It's improved a little bit. It's barely keeping up with inflation. I think yours was 15.4%, but it's a big differential. So real wages were going up. So why is that the case? So people are trying to figure this out. Like, why? What you did it work? Why?
So I had no inflation. Essentially, I had 1%. I had no inflation.
Over the whole 4 years. With that,
over the whole thing,
though.
I had very little inflation. Inflation is a country buster. It broke up Germany decades ago. Every country that has, and we have worse inflation than anybody, it is a country buster. Biden had inflation. They say it's 22%. It's much more than that.
Prices
they don't
are up average 19% under Biden. So to families that are watching this,
it's actually much more than that, though.
But on overall,
they're using things that didn't go up that much. They don't talk about interest rates that went from 2% to 10%. And you can't
Which goes to homes, Mr. President.
Right.
Young people are seeing the American dream disappear. So there's a youth differential right now. There's a youth gap in the polls. But what do you say to young people? Say, I'm just going to give up on buying a house. It's not, I'll rent for the rest of my life.
I say very simply, vote for Trump. Interest rates are coming down. Energy's coming down. You're going to be able to buy a home again. You can't buy a home. You know, one of the things killing home building is regulation. There's so many regulations from the federal government on a home. It's a big percentage of the cost of the home itself. Young people are going to be able to buy again. They're going to be able to borrow again. They're going to be able
Biden says he's going to have rent control, cap it at 5% rents. And I imagine Harris would agree with that.
Once you do that, you end up in a depression. We'll end up in a depression like in 1929.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our